The approval of a 2.18 trillion naira supplementary budget for 2023 by the Nigerian government has met, of course, many with mixed feelings. The budget, which has now scaled second reading in the House of Representatives and the Senate, seeks to address issues including defense, agriculture, infrastructure, wages and social incentives, among other sectors. News Central's Perpetual Fashomi Peter has more.
Abubakar Bagudu announced the details of the supplementary budget. Many analysts and economists have wondered where the funds will come from.
Some of these line items will spill to the next year because there's no way you're going to spend all that amount of money in just 2 months. The big ticket conversation again is how you're going to fund that budget, especially within the crunch time we have left. Again, the big question again is how do you spend $800 million in 2 months? Claiming that you disbursed monies to 15 million households, right? There has to be an impact report to show how these monies were disbursed.
Some of these things will actually go beyond 2023 to maybe Q1 2024. But when you look at them in details, there are things that actually need urgent attention as we speak. Also, if you look at the 200 billion allocated for seedling, infrastructure, agricultural input. And these are some of the things we've been clamoring for, because the problem with most of our produce is not that the fact that we don't have a fertile land. The problem has been seedling.
Although analysts have raised several concerns which range from timing and transparency to source of funding for the supplementary budget, many of them, however, think that the items listed by the minister are important.
If you just yesterday, the government raised Omo bill of about 400 billion and look at a 365-year day bill, currently trading about 22% effective yield. That is where it was raised. So if government is raising 422% for a 1-year instrument, so where do you expect corporates to actually raise funds? So it's actually, they're making the local market very difficult for private institutions to actually raise funds. For the remaining part of the year, the government is still going to raise about 720 billion in form of bond issuance in the market. In the month of November, you're looking at 360 billion, December another 360 billion. That's 720 billion already. So by the time you are now bringing the differential from the supplementary budget, so it means that we are looking at close to 2 trillion to actually raise at the latter part of the year. I don't think it's something that will be very, very easy.
Meanwhile, the government aims to fund the extra spending through revenue generated from recent policy shifts like the removal of fuel subsidy. It has also instructed the Debt Management Office, DMO, to expand the nation's borrowing capacity, ensuring additional financial support from the debt market when necessary. This is in line with the administration's commitment to breaking the cycle of over-reliance on borrowing for public spending. Perpetua Fasami Peter reporting for News Central.
Thank you very much, Perpetua Fasami Peter, for that. Joining us this morning to further expand the conversation is Economist Paul Alaje. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you so very much for having me.
All right. I did start this conversation by saying that the fact that it's passed the second reading has garnered mixed reactions from a number of Nigerians. I don't know if you've had the opportunity to look through this, and is this something you're excited about?
Well, it's a budget. The government is looking at raising more funds, most especially coming from the debt market, to support what they feel that is they are not able to do with the original 2023 budget. Recall that the 2023 budget itself, the original document that we are now heading to, we have had so much expectation that government will raise about less than 50% will be financed by government. And so when you now see that if government is not able to finance 50%, we have to borrow more money, because this is technically saying we need to borrow more money. I don't see where the federal government will raise 2.2 trillion naira to support the budget, the 2023 budget. It's obvious we still run to the debt market. In fact, I should say we have started running to the debt market because you could see activity of how much government raised in that market, and that government itself want to spend some money. I could see that we are spending on defense. We are spending quite a number of things government have said that we need to spend money on. They are not new. What seems to be new is we have really not figured out how we are going to finance our budget. And I must also say that we need to tread with caution. We are telling the Debt Management Office to expand the borrowing capacity of the country. The question is, to what end? Are we going to improve our ability to repay as well? Or we just want to look good, on paper? Because this will have tremendous negative impact on the economy and Nigeria performance in the long run.
Well, those are scary aspects of it, but let's quickly also, share with our viewers a breakdown of what this supplementary budget might look like and where it's going to be focused on. It says 400 billion is going to be allocated. Well, I think I missed that. Well, 605 billion allocated to sustain and accelerate gains in security and support security agencies. 300 billion for bridge repairs, including the Eco and Third Mainland bridges and the construction, rehabilitation, and maintenance of roads nationwide. 210 billion set aside to pay 35,000 naira to 1.5 million federal government employees for September through December. Wow. 400 billion allocated for cash transfer payments. Continue a program that provides 25,000 to 15 million households. An additional month of funding was approved by the federal government, totaling 100 billion naira. There's 200 billion for seed, agricultural input, 100 billion for urgent and immediate capital expenditure and infrastructure works. None of it, is inspiring. There's, 18 billion provided for INEC to conduct elections in Bayelsa, Kogi, and Imo. Remember that they got more than 300 billion to conduct the general elections in February, and we saw the results. 5.5 billion naira for funding of the Student Loans Board. 8 billion for takeoff grant for new ministries, 200 billion to address urgent requests from various parts of the country. I would also mention, some of the details that I have also seen that include the purchase of vehicles for the First Lady, Office of the First Lady at 1.5 billion naira, house complex at Guzape, the acquisition, renovation and rehabilitation of house complex at Guzape at 1.5 billion naira also. Purchase of SUV vehicles, 2.9 billion naira. Replacement of operational pool vehicles at another 2.9 billion naira. Renovation of Aguda House at 2.5 or 4 billion naira, beg your pardon. Computerization and digitization of State House at 2.5 billion naira. Renovation of the Dam Barracks official residence for Mr. President, 4 billion naira. Acquisition, renovation, and rehabilitation of EFCC. I think I took that already. And there's also the renovation of the official quarters of the Vice President in Lagos at 3 billion naira. I'm going to go back to the screen and some of those details. I saw something there that I want to quickly point out. The disparity in the figures. I think, yes, the 5.5 for the funding of student loans, whereas 4 billion naira is being used to renovate house and official residence. 3 billion naira has been used to renovate the Vice President's official residence in Lagos, but it's 5.5 billion naira that we're putting for student loans in January 2024. It's embarrassing. Mr. Alaje, kindly share your thoughts on these figures and what they say to you when you read these things.
These figures reveals our priorities. It shows where our energy as a country, where it falls. When you look at what we are spending, 18 billion naira for Kogi, and we are putting 5.5 for the education, and this education is even to give to students as loan. It is not that we want to use it to repair infrastructure in those universities, which include UI, ABU, OAU, UNILAG, some of the key universities, federal government-owned universities. We are not even talking about renovation or rehabilitation of the universities. We saw ASU went on strike because of university condition, but that is not the priority of government. The priority of government today is we will be spending 2.2 trillion naira, partly on renovation that some persons in government will use directly. And I don't want to be personal. But generally speaking, the point is, where will the funds come from? How are we going to raise this money? We have started by going to the debt markets, using open market operation, to raise money. How will this have impact on private sector? How many more businesses will face the challenge? And that is why revenue is a key issue to government, and is an issue I think government needs to think about and solve, very urgently before it gets too late. So my key concern about this is that we seem not to have sorted out how we will fund our budget. We saw it all through 8 years of President Buhari. I hope that we will not have a repeat of the same thing in the current administration, because in this conversation, funding is a key issue, and that we are not seeing right now.
Is there any conversation on budget performance at all? You know, do we ever as a country have conversations on budget performance?
But it's not brought to the fore. Yes, it's technically done. I would explain to you, it's technically done, but it's not brought to the fore. That is why in the media space, budget performance is not really a conversation people have. If you want to know how budget has performed, you need to read MTEF. Read MTEF, you will see government have documented how the budget, for instance, 2023 budget, at least first quarter or second quarter, first 2 quarters, must be documented in MTEF. And the chairman of, I think, budget office, Mr. Kabwezi, usually puts it there, you know, with his team, what has happened in terms of budget performance. And I can tell you, for over the years, the budget performance have been very appalling, because when you look at how much, you know, what we projected in the budget, in that year's budget, and when we eventually made in terms of revenue, and what we said we would spend in expenditure, and what we especially are committed to spending, then you see a lot of disparities, you know, in expenditure. In 2020, I remember I had conversation about 2023 budget and what government projected, you know, to spend. But that is not what we are seeing today. We are even spending more. And what government projected that we are going to make, I can tell you we made far less than those. And that is why in Q1, you know, the debt minister had said, we have spent more than what we generated in revenue to service debt. My only worry now, and even in the future, is that we are getting to a point where we might need so much in terms of revenue to service. I can understand we have a very little window, which looks big. But when you move closer to the window, you see that it is so small. It is so small because when you look at government removing subsidy, it appears we have been able to raise funds, you know, so that government can use for the budget. On the other hand, we have also seen devaluation of the naira. So when you put devaluation of the naira one side and you put the subsidy removal the other side, it appears government has more money. But because we all go to the same market, most of the things even government contractors will use are imported. So when you look at the volume of budget, you will see what we budgeted for in 2023 and the proposed budget for 2024, you will see a major gap in terms of naira numbers. But when you convert that money to the dollar, it's going to be just the same thing. So there's a lot to be worried about here. And we need to have that, you know, consistency within our budget cycle. And that is why when we take an economic decision, it always has a way of coming back to us in other ways.
Yeah, well, I like that you mentioned the you know, the petrol subsidy part, because there's arguments that we haven't actually stopped paying subsidy. At this point, it seems like we are still paying subsidy. If you analyze,
Sorry,
say that again.
I said we will pay subsidy.
Oh, no, it seems like we are still paying. We don't know what the current situation actually is, because from one hand, the government is saying something different. The independent petroleum marketers are saying something different.
Well, this should not be surprising to you as media people. You should know that we have always paid subsidy. You know, President Buhari administration, you know, many times said that there was no subsidy. In fact, they said subsidy has been removed in 2020. Later on, they said there was no subsidy. What we have was swap. Later, they said, oh, subsidy has been removed. What we have is under recovery. They gave it all manner of names. But the truth is that there is still subsidy. And as I talk to you, it's either we have subsidy in FX or we have subsidy in PMS. But that there will be no subsidy is not correct. And I'll tell you why. Why I said this is because if you look at the global cost of PMS today, and you want Nigerian to pay it, we should be looking at between 700 to 900 naira.
Yeah.
So there is still subsidy. And that is why I had mentioned, and our organization had written, that before we remove subsidy, we cannot put the cart before the horse. Refineries must be functional. there was no need for the haste. I remember the last administration said, no, don't worry, by the end of July, we're going to see oil flowing everywhere in Nigeria. And latest by first week of August. And I'm checking the calendar. Today is 1st of November. July ended. There was no oil. There was no refined oil locally in Nigeria. Not only that July ended, August ended, September ended, and just yesterday, October ended. We are now in November. And what you have seen most of the time is changing the goalposts, you know, before you even go to 45 minutes of the game. Now it's supposed to look like a football match. If we don't make local refineries work, we will be playing a game of economics where there are no supply and demand is only the determinant. Here's the question. How can we clap with one hand? How can we expect growth and prosperity to come when our people are made to face global hardship from a produce or a product that we seem to have locally beneath our feet, and it only requires our brain and equipment as well as technology to convert these produce to what we can use? Many are wondering, why do we continue to face challenges of the dollars? Yes, because 30 to 40% of our FS requirement is coming from the need for us to import PMS. Even right now, when we devalue, we now need more Naira to import the same PMS. Why are we chasing continuous chase of our tail? We should put the numbers down. We should look at it. What we are spending in Naira terms to import PMS, check what it is today. We are trying to solve the problem of pressure on the economy. Meanwhile, what we thought we saw behind us and we want to change is our own tail. That is why the chase continues. The question is, before we devalue, before we remove subsidy, in nominal terms, what are we paying? And if we leave this strategy for the occurrence for the next 4 or 5 years, what will subsidy payment be? It will be worse than what we have. And that is why the advice is that government should give out those 4 refineries. The call to privatize those refineries has been on for a long time. And we have continued to champion the need for government to give those refineries out. And the private refineries government are told Nigerians that will be coming to the stream by July and August. We understand that we are no longer in July and August. This is now November. And before you know it, the year has, 60, 61 days from today for us to say goodbye to 2023.
Yeah.
We are hopeful that before the end of this year, we're going to have that refinery eventually flipped. So that, because what many Nigerians don't know is that once we have local refineries functioning, the quality of your money will be stronger. What it means is that when you earn your salary, whether it is 100 or 200 or 300,000, the pressure that money is having in terms of inflation, the pressure is having in terms of devaluation, which of course has implications on inflation, it will significantly reduce. That is why we say it's important for us, very important for us, to go back to the old days of
Mr. Alaje, do you genuinely believe, you've talked about the importance of these refineries working and how they will strengthen Nigeria's economy and strengthen the value of our money. But do you genuinely believe that these refineries will be up and running? There's also been some sort of an investigation being conducted into why the amount of monies that have been allocated to these refineries, for the running of these refineries, that unfortunately, we can't tell where these monies went to. So one, do you think that this investigation will yield any positive feedback? And are you positive that these refineries will be up and running in the nearest future? What really is the nearest future?
Well, I don't know, because some years back, about 4 or 5 years back, I had the privilege of speaking with lawmakers, especially those in the Senate. And the option was that they want to run turnaround maintenance or to give out the refineries. And I told the members, the committee members there, that if you continue to turn around the refineries, you are like a man who wants to run, 100 meters with Usain Bolt, but you are on the chair. The chair is Baba's chair. So, but this chair continue to roll, and in your mind, you think you are running against Usain Bolt, and you get to the finishing line. By the time the whistle goes up, you realize that you have not even moved 1 inch. You are just turning around. That is what we have seen in turnaround maintenance. I don't know, but my belief is that we have a new government in place, which of course the government seems to want to take a different position from the usual nomenclature of this is Nigerian factor, it will not work. If it does not work, we are all doomed. It's the truth. It's the truth, because I don't know what has happened to your personal income in the last few months. I can tell you it has not been solely interesting for many Nigerians. From pools, from people we have pooled, things have been relatively tougher for them. So if we have refineries and over 16 years, or let me even say, properly speaking, about 25 years, monies that have been allocated to those refineries, why have we not seen results? So if we say that there is going to be a new investigation is going on, can this investigation be published? For God's sake, we need to publish the investigation so that we can see in a report what the effort of government have been regarding making these refineries work. And in terms of funding that have gone to the refineries, this is Nigerian fund. This is the monies that Nigeria have either borrowed or Nigeria have earned as a nation, and we have not seen the impact, on these refineries. Yeah, we are not paying servicing the refinery just to make us feel good that we have refineries that are not functional. So
Alaje,
how soon do I think we work? I honestly don't know, and I honestly cannot say.
I remember apologies. We will need to wrap up in a bit. I remember Ibe Kachiku did mention that by 2019 you would have refineries up and running. That failed. They made another promise for 2023 that apparently is going to fail again. So we're going to shift it to maybe 2024 and keep, just pushing it forward and, forward.
The former minister even promised that it was going to work. He never did. The immediate part, now he's running for governor in Bayelsa State, I guess.
Exactly.
He promised
he is.
different times that it will work, and we never saw a drop of the oil.
Yeah, so none of this looks good. We need to wrap up. If you can squeeze your thoughts into 30 seconds or 45 seconds, what are your expectations for the 2024 budget? It's 26 trillion naira. We've never seen it that high. Do you think Nigeria will be able to pull that off?
Well, it's a small budget. 26 trillion naira convert to the dollar is less than $40 billion.
About 34 billion.
Nigeria needs much less than $100 billion. So it's very small. The illusion we have is in our own currency that have been badly devalued. I think the earlier we understand that we live in a global economy and weigh our budget on dollar basis, we know that what we have given is really small, is really poor, and is highly insufficient. Even with that small amount, the question is, how are we going to finance it? We wait for government to present to National Assembly, and perhaps the numbers will start coming out, and we start having conversations and provide solutions as to when we can finance this budget and make our nation a better nation from what we have right now.
All right. Thank you very much for your time this morning. You did enjoy the conversation. We hope to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me.